Hi, welcome back to Halftime. It's been a big week in sports and we've got a great show in store. As always, I'm your host Genevieve and I'm joined by my co-host Parthen Saruna.
We've got all the action for you from Richmond's grand final win, as well as everything else making waves in the world of sport.
We catch up with Monash University's cheerleading team, ex-Collingwood player Sam McClary, and GWS Giants star Tanya Hetherington.
But before we dive into any of that, let's focus on the biggest event of the past fortnight, the AFL Grand Final.
I headed down to the MCG on Grand Final day to find out what the fans thought before the big game. Hi guys, we're here at the MCG for the 2019 AFL Grand Final. It's pretty obvious who I'm going for today, but we thought we'd ask everyone about their thoughts heading into the big game. Who do you think's going to win today and by how many points?
I think Tigers probably by about 85 points. No!
I reckon Richmond by probably 10 goals.
Tigers, I'd say about 20 points.
I'd say 23.
So who are you going for today?
In all honesty, GWS.
GWS? And do you think they're going to have the game today? Who do you think has the first goal today?
Dusty.
Jeremy Cameron, of
It's
course.
Jeremy Cameron, I think you can put that in. Or Toby Green.
Possibly
if
Toby.
you really wanted to lift the joint up a bit, I think it'd be Toby Green.
Free Toby.
Brody Grundy.
Oh no, he's not playing. Oh.
All right, so the Tigers have had an absolutely cracking day out and they've won their second premiership in 3 years. There's a lot of happy fans here at Tigerland. Back to you in the studio. Now we turn our attention to cheerleading. Monash's cheer teams are on the road to the AASCF National Championships in November. Margaret recently caught up with Monash Cheer's Apollo team before they departed for the Gold Coast for Uni Nationals.
3, 5, 7. Lifts, kicks and fun. Monash cheerleading team Apollo continues with their final preparations ahead of the annual Uni Games in Queensland. Recently winning gold at the Victorian State Championships, the intermediate co-ed team will compete amongst the country's top cheer squads.
I guess we have to really focus on we're here for the competition and making sure we're here to win, and I guess the bid for South Korea is a really big thing, so keeping our eyes on the prize.
Monash Cheer and Dance have a variety of teams including performance, jazz, lyrical and hip-hop. Cheerleader Dom Sullivan, now in his third year of cheer, says the sport is more than just pom-poms.
It's really dangerous and people don't really expect it. They sort of think like it's just with pom-poms and whatever, but we actually throw people like 3 or 4 stories in the air sometimes, and that's pretty crazy. So.
Besides the tough competition, the team hopes to make the most of the experience competing with their friends.
Definitely performing with my team. Putting on a great routine for our university, representing Monash University really.
The trust and the friendship we make is unbreakable, and just screaming for each other is just amazing.
For now, the team has their sights turned towards this year's Uni National Championship.
Thanks, Margaret. And Apollo ended up coming first at the championship, so congratulations to the team. Now, the Australian Boomers have been ranked number 3 in the world on the latest edition of the FIBA Power Rankings after their 4th place finish in the recent FIBA World Cup. The placement came as a surprise to many, as the Boomers were ranked higher than both Argentina, the silver medalists at the World Cup, and France, who defeated Australia in the bronze medal game. So what do you guys think? Is Australia ranked a bit too high?
So these rankings, they take into account all the games that the teams have played over the last 8 years. So Australia have done very well in the last 8 years, and which is why the rankings, the rise from the 11th position to 3rd, which is right now. I think it may come as a surprise to some, but I think it's well deserved.
So what factors come into determining their ranking, I guess?
It's the results of each team over the last 8 years, which is why you see the likes of United States, which had not that great of a World Cup, still being number 1 despite finishing 7th overall in the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. I think it's fair to see why fans are confused, especially given the most recent display of games between the teams was the World Cup, and Australia didn't finish that well, but now they're ranked 3rd in the world. So it's fair to see why fans are confused. I think we're confused by the ranking system as well. It doesn't really make sense given their performance. It doesn't take into account the friendlies that they played against the USA where they lost. Mm-hmm. So it can be a bit confusing. It doesn't really make too much sense, Jen. It's fair that you don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like FIBA needs to disclaim to everyone what factors they're taking to account if it's causing this mass confusion, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that most people are confused, so don't feel bad if you're confused as well, Jen. Shifting back to AFL now, and ex-Collingwood recruit Sam McLarty first made a name for himself when he was picked up in 2015 by the club as one of the first AFL players with profound deafness, but he was delisted in 2018. Let's go to Ezra Holt to see what Sam's been up to since then.
Equipped with a cochlear implant and incredible football talent, Sam McLarty believed that his profound deafness never used to restrict his sporting ability. However, now playing at a higher level, his impairment has made a difference.
Even a semi-professional environment such as the VFL, it becomes a game of inches, and unfortunately, I dare say my hearing does give up an inch.
During his time at the Collingwood Football Club as a draftee, Sam learned a lot from those around him.
You see guys such as Scott Pendlebury, who literally has a checklist. He used to have a checklist, and if he hadn't completed something at 11 p.m. at night, such as going down to the beach for a swim, he'd be known to be down at the beach swimming.
Although he fought hard to make his AFL debut, the opportunity never came, and he was left wondering what could have been.
I don't know if I truly made it. I don't know if I truly lived up to my potential.
Sam was delisted after the 2018 season. He was travelling overseas and was notified of this news while looking at the remains of people who died in the Pompeii volcano blast.
He's told me the news, we've had a chat, and then we sort of hung up, and I've looked at the person and I've gone, geez, I'm lucky I ain't him.
Although Sam had an inconsistent season due to injuries, he's already focusing on having a big pre-season this year with an extra bit of help.
I'm going to try and get as fit as I've ever been. That's the goal. I'm going to try and do some work with Craig Mottram, ex-Olympian, and try and build up my tank. As a footballer, you want to play at the highest level you possibly can. And, that's something I'll never hide away from.
Thanks, Ezra. Now, with the AFL season coming to an end last weekend, we can now shift our focus to the AFLW season, which starts in February. The players are facing a bit of a lack of preparation for this upcoming season, so we're joined now by Giant star Tanya Hetherington to discuss the issue. Thanks so much for coming in today.
No,
how are you?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, not bad. I've got a bit of a cold, so apologies. Bear with me.
Awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit about how this season's being prepared so far?
Yeah, well, we're into our 4th season of AFLW and my 3rd season personally, but each year on year we kind of face a bit of a lack of certainty about when we're actually going to be training and when the season will be. So that's not anything new, I guess, at this point, that every year we kind of get to this point and not really sure, but we'd like to know, as players like myself, I need to move interstate as I live in Melbourne. So we're just currently going through our CBA at the moment with the AFLPA and AFL, which is in negotiation point, and hopefully we'll actually have a resolution soon, and then we can get some clarity about when we're going to begin.
Would it be possible for you to explain the process of the CBA and how it works?
Yep, so the AFLPA represent us as players to the AFL. So the AFLPA do a lot of background work with the AFL about coming up with a deal or a fair deal about things such as pay, season length. Like, there's a lot of different things in this, CBA, but this is the first time that we're moving into a longer term deal. So it's a 3-year deal that they're negotiating. So that's probably why it's been a little bit tricky at this point, because we're not just signing off year on year. We're not looking for a quick fix about, yes, we'd like to know when we start. It's a lot more detailed. So there's a lot of toing and froing between the AFLPA and our own player reps. You can understand why it's kind of taking a little bit more time, but for us as players, that's a good thing, because we want to be involved in the process.
As an athlete, how do you sort of prepare yourself for a playing season without knowing logistically where you're going to be living, if it's going to be in a month's time, if it's going to be in 2 months' time? How do you even prepare for something like that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I suppose when you say it out loud, it actually sounds a bit ridiculous. It's quite funny that we actually have to prepare ourselves without knowing anything. But I think sometimes it's just a bit like in life, it's the lay of the land. You can't get frustrated or upset with things you can't control. So for us as athletes, we know there will be a season, so it's just about making sure that we're prepared for if they say to us tomorrow, we're going to start in a month, we need to be physically prepared, mentally prepared. So I guess you have a lot of conversations, like we have really good conversations with our clubs who they're probably in the same boat as us and don't actually know themselves when things are going to happen. But if you have a lot of open dialogue, they're very understanding of my work situation, for example. So they're not just going to say, we need you next week and expect that I can just uproot my life. Same with work, my workplace, Monash Sport's fantastic, very supportive and just saying, when you know, let us know, but you've got our support. So I guess, it's just make sure that you're doing what you can control so that when the time comes to move, you're ready to go.
Yeah, and you must have been ramping up the preparation for the season as well, right?
Yeah, and every year the competition is honestly just keeps progressing in such a fast rate with the skills and the young talent coming through. So for me, every season it's almost like my training starts earlier for the next season. So we finished in April or March, and you're ready. You're preparing yourself physically with all the fitness and the gym and things like that, nutrition, like before you even get there. So I feel like I've already done a pre-season before we actually begin. Pre-season. So very lucky again at Monash Sport. We have fantastic facilities. So I go out on my lunch break and train and use the gym. So yeah, I'm really lucky that I've got that flexibility, I guess, to train.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sorry, Jen. Despite the uncertainty, you do seem still quite excited to play next year and to get going, and the prospect of a 3-year deal rather than a 1-year deal.
Yeah, that's the thing that we keep reminding ourselves on, and I guess why it is important to make sure that where we want the competition to look in 3 years' time gets, I guess, put across. So, for example, I'm probably unlikely to be there in 3 years' time. Like, you never know, that would be great, but just with my age and things like that. So, it would be easy for someone like me to just want a quick fix vote, but I've got to be thinking about what's best for the competition in the generation to come. But yeah, I just love football, to be honest. Like, the excitement comes from the love of playing the game, and I just can't wait to get started. And I think when you've got dates, it just makes it real. So I'm excited to get that answer. But yeah, it is a fantastic competition, and I just always feel blessed that I'm lucky enough to play in it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you coming down to talk to us. Now we're going to head to Sirona for the social media roundup.
Thanks, Jen. Let's kick things off by taking a look at one of the most trending power couples in the world of sport. Julie Ertz plays soccer for the US women's national soccer team that won this year's FIFA Women's World Cup, while Zach Ertz plays for the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFL and scored the winning touchdown in Super Bowl 52. As if being at the pinnacle of their respective sports wasn't enough for the married pair, not only are they each other's #1 supporters, they also run the Ertz Family Foundation to assist youth sport, education and families. And for good measure, they've even released their own books. Moving from one successful team to another, and Richmond's dominant performance in the grand final has seen them receive almost unconditional praise from supporters and pundits alike. However, the issue of diving has reared its head again, as some fans felt Tigers defender Dylan Grimes went to ground a little too easily in the search of free kicks. However, the criticism this time around was nowhere near as scathing as when teammate Alex Rance lost his footing in a marking contest last year. But surely these are isolated incidents that by no means are representative of a broader issue of diving at the club. Leading by example there, Dimmer. And finally, let's head over to footy's equivalent to Muck-Up Day, Mad Monday. While Geelong superstar Patrick Dangerfield and media personality Kane Cornes have been engaged in a public rivalry for quite some time now, Danger took a swipe at the former Power player by dressing up as a firefighter in reference to Cornes' former occupation. But it was Cornes who had the last laugh this time, cheekily reminding Dangerfield that he has a premiership medal while the dressed-up cat doesn't. And to round up the AFL festivities, what better way than having Brendan Favola model the Guernsey and premiership medallion of Tigers forward Daniel Rioli. Although he might be regretting the pick now after comedian Dave Hughes savaged the look, saying that the jumper was under more pressure than Leon Cameron was at halftime of the grand final. But I think we'll take an ill-fitting singlet over boozy Brownlow behaviour any day of the week. And that's it for today's show. Thank you for joining us once again at halftime. And Jen, this is your last show with us.
It is. I know, I'm really sad, but yeah, it's been so great to be on the show. Moving on to a new chapter, I have a full-time job at the South Metro Junior Football League, so really excited to start there, but I'm definitely going to miss being on the show.
We're so sad to see you leave.
Is it going to be the same without you, Jen? Who's going to lead us?
We'll have to figure it out. But yeah, thanks for having me as always.
We look forward to having you back next time.